It's January 4th, 2017, and it's time for WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. I'm Greg Watkins, the editor at WorthPoint.com, and here's Harry. How you doing tonight, Harry?
Hey, I'm doing great. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
2017. You know what that means?
Well, it means a lot of things, but what?
No. 1967 was 50 years ago.
Okay. Yes. So, but
yes.
What happened in 1967?
No, it's not that. It's the point is, if you grew up in the 40s and 50s, it's not good news.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, but seriously, you know, nobody, this whole business an antique or collectible has to be, an antique has to be 100 years old is a crock of crap. And, today, but today, to the young generation, 50 years ago, was in a distant past.
Yes.
And so you can say, now, I believe an antique is anything made before 1980, but I'm not, my view isn't popular with some of the people in the trade. But I am going to tell you, 50 years is starting to represent, that's 2 generations, and it represents a big time spread. And I have to tell you, if you talk to a young person in their 30s or 40s, 1967 is a long time ago. And I think we got to look a lot closer at 50 years than ever. I mean, come on, look at it this way. It only means we've got 3 years to go before the 60s are all 50 years old or older. And then we're going to get to the 70s.
Oh, if the 70s become antique, then I think I'm in trouble. Well, no, it already is antique.
Oh, no.
Based on
Listen.
But
the 70s and 80s are the hot decades, and the 90s are starting to move. The early 90s are starting to move into the hot decades. If you go by my 30 years rule, for the first 30 years of anything's life, all its value is speculative. Okay,
yes,
we're talking 1987 at this point. Anything made in 1987 or before should have a stable secondary market. Think about that.
I'm not sure. It's making me feel old.
No, it's not that you feel old, but there's a bad thing among collectors. We grow old, but we grow old with the things we collected early.
Yes.
And so what happens is we don't keep up with the more recent stuff. Now, you and I do because, WorthPoint, you have to keep up with everything because all the stuff is flowing into the database. And I have to keep up to it because of my work. So I have to know stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even 2000s, okay?
Right.
Yeah. And, that's one of the reasons why I did for 25 years, I did that $250, $300 in a closet column because I would go to the toy stores at least once a year and look at toys because I figured 30 years out, I'd try to remember those kind of things. Well, the collection I had, it's been sold, but there were Michael Jackson dolls. When he's dead. And and I got to tell you, it's been a tough year. It's really interesting. Think of Star Wars.
Okay.
1977, in a galaxy far, far away, right?
Yes.
Now, think of all the people that were in that movie that had passed away. Carrie Fisher, right?
Right.
Darth Vader. R2-D2.
Right.
We're starting to, forget the movie stars from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We got movie stars from the late 70s that aren't with us anymore. Okay? And Carrie Fisher was young. Now, I'm not saying she didn't die prematurely, but the whole point of the matter was that, all of a sudden, when you start looking at Turner Classic Movies, and you start seeing all the stars we lost this past year, right?
Yes.
An awful lot of them.
Yes.
Movie stars in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Not in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. They're all dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but this is all part of perspective. It's part of the collecting perspective to try to understand how all this stuff fits together and what it means to each generation. Now, we got an interesting email in this week from one of our WorthPoint listeners. And it came from Joyce Chapman Enterprises, and she said, I was listening to the Christmas WorthPoint YouTube video. Must have been the one we did on the 18th of December, I think. And she said, you missed one of the most you missed one of the very important reasons that shows are closing. When was the last time you checked out the price of a booth at any of them? I stopped doing shows years ago. I can't afford to do any of them. The Palm Beach Show Group has a new young owner, Scott Diamond. The cost of a booth at their show now starts at $10,000.
Wow.
Now, the next phrase is her words, not mine. They screwed themselves when they bought the Pier Show and turned it into another high-end show, and New York didn't need. The dealers couldn't afford it, and the customers didn't want it, and it's canceled. The Pier Shows are gone. Okay?
Yeah.
He says the shows in Miami this year are on their last legs, unaffordable, in odd places, short of dealers. Baltimore is also falling apart for the same reason. The street fairs are for less expensive collectible indoor shows, are for high-end items. There's no middle market anywhere. I don't see the situation changing anytime soon. And I think the points she raised are critical to the long-term success of this industry, seriously. Look, the point is that the high-end shows have gotten more and more expensive for dealers to do. $10,000 booths. I mean, come on, knock it off. I mean, but the hall rental and insurance and all the other costs are there. But the problem is, if you're going to go in there and pay $10,000 for a booth minimum, plus merchandise, plus housing, you're going to have $25,000, $30,000 tied up. You got to do $60,000, $70,000 worth of business. Now, I got news for you. The average antique show dealer does not do $65,000 worth of business at an antique show. Come on, you know that, and I know that. The middle range shows where a dealer, on a good day would do 10 to 15,000, maybe 20, are gone. The small shows that were the core of the middle part of the market, they were run by charity groups in small towns, raise money for the local hospital or a school or some reason or another. Those shows are collapsing. First of all, the dealers are getting older. They can't get dealers, and they've tried to raise their rents because the facilities raise their rents and the insurance companies raise their rents, and you don't see them anymore. And then what happens is these owners come in and they think consolidation is the key, and then they go buy things like the Pier Show. I mean, I remember when the Pier Show was 3 piers, 2 weekends in a row. I mean, it was a fabulous place. Irene Stella, one of the great legendary show promoters. Her daughter did well with it. Eventually went down to 1 week, 2 piers. That's when the daughter sold it. Smart move for her. But the point of the matter is they kept raising the rates, and nobody wanted to go. And the whole question is, where's the middle of our market anymore? Where is the stuff that sells at an average unit cost between $500 and $5,000? Not around. It's either above $50,000 or at least $25,000, or below $250, $300. I mean, let's assume take an average price. So average price to buy something, $500. How many $500 items can you buy in a year? I can't buy a lot of them. I can buy some. If you say, well, how many $5,000 object can you buy in a year? I know what my answer is: goose egg. And so you go to these shows and you see these highly ludicrous prices on stuff. Well, I don't know who's buying it. Not the collectors, that's for sure. Investors, maybe. High-end people who think that somehow it's tangible goods instead of intangible stuff. They ought to be putting their money in the stock market. Man, it's growing like heck. But the problem is that the biggest categories that we're losing strength on is the middle of the antiques market, especially the Victorian era stuff. The romantic staffature, the historical staffature. I think I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I was in Winter Park, Florida. I bought a cropless pattern reticulated fruit bowl with underplate, romantic staffature in a green color. Gorgeous piece.
Right, we talked about
it. In terms of availability, for $156. We were talking pieces that were $600 and $700 years ago. I mean, the people in the middle have to lower their prices down to the lower levels so they can sell something. I mean, I don't know. I'm concerned. I have to tell you, there was a local antique show here in Grand Rapids when we first moved here in January, and I went every year. It was a nice little show. 2 years ago, I stopped going. It wasn't enough to interest me. You know, it had gone down so far that the fun stuff in the middle that I enjoyed wasn't there, or if it was there, it was so highly priced. And I said to myself, why? I mean, I know people don't like to hear this, but I think Joyce has hit upon a thing here, and it's an important thing to talk about, really. I mean, people don't like it when you talk negative stuff in this trade, but I'm concerned about the middle of the market. Very much concerned about the middle range antique shows, 100 dealer antique shows, 150 dealer antique shows. But it's true even of malls. The big mega malls have survived, right?
Yeah.
What about the small 100 dealer malls? They're not doing well. I mean, seriously.
So is this a thing where we're going to have to wait until it hits bottom and a new generation comes in and
No, because the next generation isn't going to collect what we collect, and they don't think like we do. And it's also, you know, whether we like it or not. And here we sit on YouTube, mind you. Okay, it's digital now. It's digital. Look, Macy's. Before we went up on the air, I was reading I think Macy's is closing 68 more stores because they had lousy Christmas sales. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of fast food. Just read another thing today about casual dining. Applebee's, Ruby Tuesdays, and I forget what the third one was, are in trouble as chains. People will either eat at home or eat fast food. But to go out and have a nice sit-down dinner, I'm not doing it anymore. I mean, Olive Garden is another example of a restaurant in trouble. Of course, after eating at one or two of them, I just can understand why. It has nothing to do with casual dining. Ugh. We won't go into my criticism of Olive Garden food. But anyway, the thing about it is that see, your comment is the thing that troubles me, because everybody says if we wait long enough, it'll go back to the way it was. And you know, in the 1970s and 80s, you could say that, and it did. But in 2016, you can't say that. It's never going to go back. Either we start adapting and learning new ways to do business, or it's gone. Just gone.
Well, this has got to do with the fact that the younger generations, they don't have any interest in antiques, but they may not have even been exposed to antiques through their folks.
Well, that's part of the problem.
And
you know, we made them so valuable that nobody wanted to use them, and when you don't use them, you don't get exposure to them. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, sitting them on shelves doesn't solve the problem. Well, anyway, enough of all this.
Well, okay.
We got a neat object in this week.
Right. Well, you know, before we get to that, Joyce sent that email in, right?
Yes.
We need to let people know how they can ask a question or make a comment.
Right. You know what? If you have an object you'd like us to talk about, if you'd have a subject matter you'd like to share with us, if you have any kind of thing, send an email to community@worthpoint.com. Community@worthpoint.com. Now, if you're sending in a question about an object, pictures, a lot of them are a big help, information, size, markings, and so forth, right? If you bought it, tell me what you paid for it, okay? Now, here we go. Let's get this fellow up here.
All right.
This is a 7/8 inch pin that I got. Somebody wrote me about. It's called Hi-Fi Club, sponsored by your Coca-Cola bottler, and this is a Talentsville participant. Okay, Talentsville participant, right?
Yes.
Well, you know, I thought, heck, I don't even remember this. And here's the problem. I should have. I grew up in the era. Let's talk about the history of this. First of all, you know, Coca-Cola, I wish every company was as solid as Coca-Cola was. Coca-Cola has a wonderful sense of its own history, and its website is filled with history about Coke products. So, you know, don't I type in there, and man, I get up this whole thing from Coca-Cola. Now, here's the deal. Now you're too young for this, but when I was in high school, which was graduated in '59, teenage dances were big. Seriously, right? And I remember we used to go up to the YMCA when I was in high school. And then when I was over at Lehigh, we went over to the YWCA because we wanted to pick up women. But nevertheless, there were weekly dances, right? Well,
Yes.
this teenage dance craze was there, and Coca-Cola executives said, we got to take advantage of this. So in 1958, they launched the Hi-Fi Club, sponsored by your local bottler. And all you had, it could be a school, it could be a charitable organization. All you had to do is have a club and have a dancer, have something that was kind of a positive image for youth, all right? And you wrote Coca-Cola, you contacted the local bottler, and they sent you all this information on how to get the club started and how to do all kinds of things. And in fact, on WorthPoint, as you can see, what is there,
There's 119 Hi-Fi Club Coca-Cola items.
memorabilia for that? Okay. So anyway, in fact, let's take a look at that, the first two on that list here, because what I want to see is, man, look at the prices.
Yes.
First one is a banner. The
This is
banner,
a banner.
they must have sent to the sponsoring organization, right? $570. Wow. Fabulous. But this is it, the Hi-Fi Club sponsored by your Coca. But then the next one is like a membership kit or something. I think it was for the organization, although you supposedly, here was the deal. Let me tell you how clever Coke was. Coke did not require you to sign up did not require to pay a fee. If you signed up to the club for free, and then you got all this stuff, and then there were no dues, so it went along. By 1960, June 1960, you ready for this?
Mm-hmm. So
there were close to 2 million members of the Coca-Cola Hi-Fi Club.
Wow.
In 47 states. I don't know. I assume I don't know which of the 48 states didn't have one, but 47 states had them, right?
Well, Hawaii and Alaska come in, so maybe
no, wait a minute. Were they in by 60, 58, and 60? I don't think so. Did they?
Now I'm drawing a blank on when they came in. Was it 59 and 60? Or 58?
No idea. You're the guy in charge of the computer there, buddy.
Well, all right, give me a chance and I'll figure it out here. You continue talking
anyway,
about
but keeping on going, right?
Yeah.
The clubs were so successful that in 1960, Coca-Cola decided to have a talent contest at the local clubs, right?
Right.
And so they did a Talentsville participant contest. You went to a local club and they had a series of contests. Now, the thing was they had contests at every dance. You got Coca-Cola, memorabilia, all kinds of great stuff. But they had this contest, and the local people went to 5 divisional semifinals, kind of like, right?
Yeah.
But the winner at the semifinals, the 5 semifinals, you ready for this one? Got a $500 wardrobe, a trip to New York City, and an audition with a record company. Okay. And then Coca-Cola broadcast the finals, and the winner of the finals got a $5,000 scholarship.
Wow.
Not a bad deal, right?
That's huge at that time too.
Oh, $5,000 that would have paid for a college education in a private school. Well, anyway, let's go back to this wonderful little pin. Now I got to tell you a story about this one, right?
Uh-huh.
This is where beware what you know, right? The guy that called up and said, I got 50 of them. The first thing that comes to mind, right, is flood the market, right?
Right.
You don't throw 50 of them on the market at one time because the market's going to sink big time. Now, these are all unused. That's the nice thing about them. I mean, it's got some reflection in it, but it's a mint condition one. And not only there's a bunch of tie bars too. So, you know, if he's going to send them into the marketplace, he's going to have to stagger them in there a little bit, right?
Yes.
So that he can do that. Well, anyway, long and the short of this is going up on WorthPoint. We found one that sold for $70. Now we found a damaged one. I found a damaged one that sold for less. But there's a pin, right?
There is the pin.
And that sold for $113.
$113, two little more than 2 years ago.
And the tie bar sold for $70, right?
Yeah, let me go back and see here.
Yeah.
Well, this particular tie bar was 31, but there was another one that was 70. Yeah.
$70. Right.
Yeah.
But the thing about it now, how long ago was that? Oh, I don't know. That's 2007.
Right, and it's also a clip. It's not the bar, so maybe that's
no, it's a tie clip. It's the same difference. But the thing about it is this: when using WorthPoint, just like any price guide, you got to look at the dates, okay? Because when I was intrigued by the history of this club, and so I looked at all the stuff on WorthPoint. Okay, things have increased in value recently over the earlier period, the earlier postings.
Yeah.
You could see a price drop of almost 50% or more.
Yeah. So here's that same tie clip for $70, and that sold a year ago.
Yes, I agree, and in great shape too. Look at that, right?
Yep.
Yep. And I have to tell you, I mean, if this guy releases them, a couple a year, say he lists 5 a year at $70 a piece, 350 plus some of the tie bars, he'll make himself $500-600 a year, and for the next 5 to 10 years. And I think the value is only going to go up in this piece. Now let's go back and look at some of the other stuff. I mean, I got to tell you, there was some great stuff in here. I love the 45 record holder.
Yeah, yeah. Let me find.
Now we found one that had a couple records sticking in it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There you go. And look at the price they're bringing. I mean,
that was $53 3 years.
And that's about standard for them. But there were patches. I know. Look, they got that neat logo on the top. I mean, just really neat. I don't know why I never knew about this club or ran across it before. I must have been dense in this type of stuff. But the patches, here's a patch right here. They're selling for good money too.
That's
$44.
That's the decal. Let me go back.
That's the decal. That was one of the things that was in the membership kit.
Right. Oh, that's promotional banner, $50.
I know. I mean, I think they're super stuff. But anyway, enough of all of that. We wish our viewer good luck with getting that stuff into the marketplace. I also want to say thank you. He sent me one of the pins as a courtesy.
Did he?
Yes. Well, in good conscience, I can't sell it unless I get really desperate. No.
We'll let him sell a couple first. Maybe
another one of my God only knows why I need this pin thing, but I could. I told him. He said, I'll send you one in the mail. I said, man, far be it from me. This is one of the things. You never say no to something for free. Come on.
Right.
Now,
and it is only a 1/4 inch. It's a tiny little thing.
It's 7/8 of an inch. It's a nice little pin.
Yeah.
Anyway, long and the short of that is we're going to transition to something. I got the January edition of Main Antique Digest the other day, and there was an interesting editorial in there. And this editorial talked about how Twitter and a lot of the electronic media, Facebook and so forth, are impacting our business, okay?
Yeah.
And you say, hey, that impact is very positive. Well, this editorial was about a negative impact. Some individual went into an antique shop in New England and saw a flower bag from Lucky Flower, okay?
Yes.
Now, when you think of Lucky, you don't think of the reverse swastika symbol. But going back to Egyptian times, the so-called reverse swastika, the one that goes different from the Nazi swastika.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Good luck symbol.
It's a good luck symbol. You find it on coins. You find it everywhere in fabrics and whatever. Well, some guy took a picture of this and said this store supports Nazis and National Socialists.
Yeah.
And it went viral.
I heard that a lot of people believed it too.
Yes, it went viral to the point where the shop owner was so harassed, she had to close her store a month before Christmas and still hasn't opened it up again. What a jerk. I mean, no. no matter what she put on her Facebook and said, look, this is a good luck symbol. This was used by a manufacturer. The bag was made, 25 years before the National Socialist Party came to power in Germany. Nothing she could do could diffuse it.
Yeah. Well, we even had a shaving mug with the reverse swastika on it not too long ago that we talked about.
We did. Yes, we did. That's a good point, right? And the thing about it is that these jerks out there don't bother to do any research work. They don't bother to get any understanding. They don't bother to get back. Look, like it or not, we're going digital. Like it or not, we got a president who thinks Twitter is his own personal venue to tell people things, right? And I mean, and he's up there all the time. And don't tell me it isn't effective for him, because people watch it. Although I have to tell you this. I am getting really upset. Now, I'm on a soapbox. This has got nothing to do with antiques and collectibles. But Trump, CNN did a new book about Trump, right? About Undefinable or something. It's a new book. Okay. And Trump's picture on the cover, right? Now, first thing we can make this about collectibles. Don't buy a copy. Or buy a copy because you want to read it, but don't buy a copy because you think it's going to be worth $500 10 years from now, because it's not going to be worth that kind of money. Okay, so we got the collectible angle here, right?
Right.
So what does Trump do? But send him a tweet saying, "Saw a copy of your book. Thank you very much. You didn't use the best picture of me on your cover, right?" Headline on AOL: Trump outraged by cover of CNN book. He wasn't outraged. He just said, hey, you didn't use the best picture you could have. He's not outraged. He didn't say, take my damn picture, change it on the book, do whatever. Media blows it all up. There's no, we were talking about how there's no middle ground in the antique market. There's no middle ground left in news.
No, and that's...
Well, but I think we're seeing some of that. And again, to swing that back to the antiques and collectibles, I think we're seeing some of that in the trade. I do. I think people exaggerate stuff, don't have a sense of perspective. It's all at the moment and immediate. They don't go back and look at the past history. They don't think about what's happening up ahead. I mean, that's what I've done all my life. And it's frustrating to me that we don't have more respect for taking a moment, doing the research, and figuring out what's going on. Well, enough of that. Hey, speaking of weird things, no.
Yeah. Well, before we move on again,
what?
Alaska came in January of 1959, and Hawaii was August of 59.
Well, one of those two didn't have a Coca-Cola club. No.
Well, yeah.
Probably Alaska.
Probably.
They drink something different than Coke up there. I have no idea.
They had teenagers up there in 59.
Well, they must have, of course. But anyway, we got a picture of an interesting thing. If you want to call it up here, we will let our people see it. Who doesn't need one of these, as it turns out, right?
Yeah. Well, my stepson is learning to be a blacksmith.
Oh, well, but this isn't a blacksmith anvil. You wouldn't be looking. This is a bench.
Yeah, this is the shop anvil because it's got the vise on the end.
Well, yes, but this is very interesting. The anvil is dated, which happens to be October 23rd, 1877, and it's an anvil with a vise on the end. And the viewer wanted to know, what was it used for? Now, I inherited my father's sister's husband, it's a long story, was a jeweler. And when he died, my father got a lot of his old jewelry tools, okay? And on our workbench downstairs was an anvil that looked very much like this, nice little bench anvil. I'm trying to see if I could give you the size here real quick. It's only 16 inches long by 3.5 inches across. The flat top is 3.5 by 8 inches. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's marked number 2, which is important too. Well, I tell you what happened. He wanted to know what it was used for, and he wanted to know, was it a jeweler's anvil? I think it could have been. However, in doing some research work, I found a guy offering an example for sale that sold rural antiques, and he called it a tinsmith sample. Now, could a tinsmith have used it? Of course. But the good news was I started to do some fooling around because I had the patent date, and I got the patent for it. It was patented by a C.A. Parker out of Connecticut, patent number 196380. So if you pull up patent number 193680, from Meridian, Connecticut. Now, the minute you hear Meridian, okay, this is a test for you.
For me? Okay.
For you personally. Meridian, Connecticut. What does that tell you? Okay.
I don't know Meridian, Connecticut.
Connecticut River, home of the metal stamping industry.
Really?
In the 18th century.
Okay.
So, clocks. A lot of those clocks, Ansonia Clock Company, all along the river, right? Fittings for all kinds of industry, including buttons. Meridian, Connecticut. Silver plating. Meridian, Connecticut. That whole Connecticut River Valley was a huge industrial empire at one point in time. So I decided it would be fun to see what I could find out about Charles A. Parker, the guy who patented the thing. Well, lo and behold, besides getting the patent, found out that his claim to fame here was that he did attach it's an enamel body, and then he attached the vice jaw, screw and jaw body to the end. That was his patent. I don't know why nobody ever did that before, but he did it for the first time. But in finding out about him, Charles Parker and the Parker Company, and there's apparently a 2-volume work, was a big manufacturer of lighting. You know these parlor lamps that you see that have a unit and the chains come down and there's a brass top and then lusters and the brass bottom?
Yes.
They made a lot of them. In fact, they made a ton of stuff that was involved with metal. The company apparently had over 100 patents over time. And, it's like this is what makes doing this type of stuff so much fun. One object gets you off on this research adventure, and I learned all about the Parker Company and about match safes and all the kinds of things that they've done. And it was around in the 30s. It stopped making lamps in 31, but guess who it acquired? Bradley and Hubbard, another major lamp manufacturer, and they produced. In 1957, it was acquired by Union Manufacturing, with the last remains of the Parker operations ending around 1987. But I mean, this is a company with a 150-year history. That is just fascinating. Now, the question is, now you're ready for this one, right?
Okay.
The guy tells me, okay, now I'm encouraging people to write to us that contact me. If you bought it, tell me what you paid for it. How do I know you didn't set a world's record, right? So the guy says I paid $80 for it. So I sent him the information on the patent, and he writes back and he says, what's the darn thing worth? Well, shit, if you paid $80 for it, you know it's worth at least $80, right?
Right.
But here's the deal. Who's going to collect a bunch of old anvils? Not a lot of people. Maybe some guy who collects antique blacksmith stuff or whatever, tinsmith stuff.
Possibly, but it would be more for
for modern use, right? For reuse, right?
Yes.
So now the question is, what is a new one worth?
Well, I have one of these much smaller that I got 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It came in a little cardboard box, and it's probably about a third of the size, and it's on my workbench downstairs. And I think it was probably $25 or something like that. That's
right. If you go up on the internet, you can buy new ones for under $50. So why would you want 100 and some odd year old one if you could buy a new one because you want to use it for $80? I don't know.
Well, I guess you'd have to look at how well does that screw work? Is the old one smoother on the vise?
Surely you just.
Well, the one that I have is really rickety and it's really loose. So.
Okay, but you only paid $20. Buy a new one for $45, you'll be in business.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of all this shit. Anyway, going back to all of this, I did find, however, an antique one for sale for $150 in England.
Okay.
So but what do I think of the $80 he paid? He was at an auction. He should have thought better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't scrap that one and get $80 for it.
Right. And he can't ship it to England for.
No, it would be the poor guy would pay twice what he paid to get it to ship it.
Right.
Well, enough of this silliness. But anyway, we want to thank all the people that send us stuff. We appreciate that. We're going to put the sign up one more time. You have something you want us to talk about, pontificate on, who knows, whatever, something, an object you want us to do. Send your email to community@worthpoint.com. Community@worthpoint.com. Please, on objects, give us a lot of pictures. Tell us all you know about them. Give us size and markings. And most importantly, tell us how you acquired it and what you paid for it. Because we can go from there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So next week, same time, same date.
I hope so.
Wednesday at 9.
Wednesday at 9.
That'll work for us.
Off to a new year. You have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, Harry. You have a good one too.